My name is Nathan, and I'm one of the trainers here at SimpliPhi Power. So welcome to today's webinar. A couple orders of business. We'll be using the Q&A feature, so I don't have the ability to unmute you here in the webinar. But if you type your questions into the Q&A feature, I will try to answer them, sometimes in real time, and I'll certainly get to all the questions at the end. So before I introduce our energy storage system, I would like to show you just an overview of our product line. So SimpliPhi Power has been producing battery backup systems since 2010, and we've got a long history of using the safest chemistry on the market, LFP chemistry, lithium ferrophosphate. So we've been providing safe, non-toxic, cobalt-free batteries that are certified by UL and UNDOT for a long time, for over a decade. We're proven. We've got batteries all over the world. It says 40 countries here, but that number is actually outdated. I need to update that. We're in more countries than that. We've got over 250 megawatt hours installed worldwide now, and we've been tested with U.S. military, Marine Corps, and other high and extreme need organizations. But the idea with SimpliPhi here is to keep power backup, to keep battery-based backup systems simple. And we mean a few things by that. One, fewer components make it easier for installers to use these systems. We don't necessarily mean simple in terms of non-technical. We mean easy to install, easy to use, and there for critical backup when you need them. So I'm going to point out just a few of these products before I jump into our ESS, which is on the screen there. Some of our most popular products, our best-selling battery, in fact, is still our Phi battery. This battery's been around, I think, for 7 years now. We've upgraded it to 3.8 kilowatt hours, and that's the battery shown on the left. It comes with a full 10-year warranty. If you have customers that want to be able to remotely monitor their systems, we also offer the SimpliPhi battery, which is shown there. That battery has closed loop communications as well as a sophisticated BMS system that will allow IoT type remote monitoring and communication with inverters. And we have a number of inverters approved to use with this SimpliPhi battery. Although after today's presentation, you'll see we hope that you will consider using our new inverter. We also have these outdoor rated battery systems. So the boss cabinet is shown there with 12 batteries inside. You can get a large amount of power in an outdoor rated enclosure. And this system is really kind of a plug and play system. It ships out to you, and it's a very easy, quick hookup. We also have a similar version of that outdoor rated cabinet, which we call the access cabinet, and that comes with the inverter already pre-installed, pre-assembled. All you need to do is install the batteries and hook up the cables, and you have a built-in ESS system that's outdoor rated. Our new ESS system is also outdoor rated, and so that's what I'll be introducing to you in just a few minutes. It comes with software to remotely control and monitor systems. It allows fleet management, and I'll get into all of that. And so that's the ESS that you see on your screen. A lot of people don't know that SimpliPhi Power also has a high voltage division. And so if you have very large customer needs, SimpliPhi has a whole division of high voltage engineers, which can help put together systems for large applications. So if you're in need of that, feel free to reach out to me at the end. You can email me at training@simpliphipower.com, or you can go directly to our high voltage team through sales@simpliphipower.com. So I want to point out a couple of things as I begin this presentation, because I know I'll have a lot of installers joining us for this webinar. And one of the things that should be on your minds, especially as you're speaking to customers, is the large rebates that the IRA program, the Inflation Reduction Act, is offering to homeowners to install backup power and install renewable energy systems. So I want to point out a few things here. People can get up to $14,000 in total rebates. These As of January 1st, 2023, this will work for just battery backup systems without being connected to renewable energy. And if a customer does have existing solar on the roof, they can get these rebates already by installing energy storage systems like the one I'm going to be presenting to you. You do have to, you can't exceed a household income of 100%, 150% of the area median income. But there are additional tax credits, even for those who are very wealthy. They can get tax credits of up to $2,000 back if they install things like heat pumps or heat pump water heaters, heat pump HVACs. And so these are products you might consider installing, even though SimpliPhi doesn't tell you, or it doesn't sell you these. These are products where your customers can save a lot of money. And this might be something you might consider offering. SimpliPhi is happy to provide you with information on the IRA as well, and so we can talk about that towards the end. Our systems are designed to be versatile and scalable and simplify. And what we mean by that is versatile, that they can be used in a variety of different applications, but it's the same product. We don't have many different products for use in very specific environments, which can make it complicated for installers, right? So we offer systems which you can consider as building blocks, but they are scalable in that you can use them from very small systems up to very large systems. So I'll be presenting that to you as I show you our new EnergyTrak system. So houses and customers have various needs, right? Some people just want to have backup power that's there in case the grid gets shut off or in case power goes out due to some type of disturbance. Others might want to have an off-grid system installed. And so we've designed this with these things and many more in mind. Our goal is to make it as simple as possible for our installers and our customers to go in and put in one of our systems. So the new ESS, which SimpliPhi has released this year, it's been shipping out and we've got a lot of new customers using it, consists of a 6 kilowatt inverter. That's 6 kilowatts of continuous power. It can surge up to 12 kilowatts for a fraction of a second and up to 3 seconds to 9 kilowatts. I'll get into many of the specs of this inverter during this presentation. It's a hybrid inverter with built-in charge controllers for connecting with solar or other generation sources. This is an outdoor rated inverter, and we'll talk about that as well. Another aspect of the energy storage system, of course, is the battery-based storage. We're offering 4.9 kilowatt hour batteries. These are outdoor rated batteries, wall mountable, right? You don't want to have this on the ground in case there's a flood. And so these are wall mountable, easy to install batteries. And then monitoring and remote controlling of the unit, remote programming, remote firmware updates is through another aspect of this energy storage system, which is the EnergyTrak control system, an app that you can use on your phone and soon on your computer, as well as use on tablets, etc. So let me get into a few of the specs for this inverter. As I said, it's a 6 kilowatt inverter. It's got proprietary software. We'll talk about that as well. It's got integrated MPPTs to hook up to solar. It's self-monitoring. It monitors the incoming current, outgoing current. It monitors the grid, etc. You can use this inverter for AC or DC coupled solar. Remember when I said versatile, right? AC or DC coupled solar, on grid or off grid. What else do I mean by versatile? Versatile meaning it would work for somebody who's wanting to install a small system or a large system. So we can come in at a fairly low price point because we're down at 6 kilowatts. But if you need more power than that, we can integrate up to 9 inverters wired in parallel to give you 54 kilowatts of power. So it's versatile in that it can scale from small to large. It also offers a seamless transition. If that grid goes out or if there's some type of disturbance in the power supply, this inverter will kick on in 8 milliseconds. You won't even notice the lights flicker. right? To give you an idea of how fast that is, a typical 60 hertz cycle, right, is 8 times longer than that just for the full cycle. It's got a digital interface on the front. So there's a display on the front of this inverter. A lot of inverters are not offering this. We're offering that. Sometimes, you know, you might not want to look at the app on your phone. You might have customers that don't even want the smartphone. And this offers a display on the front, letting you know what's happening with the inverter, letting you know if there's anything wrong with the system. You can see that on the multi-feature digital display that's there. You can also program and make changes through this display by unlocking it and using the programming button straight on the front of the display. It's EnergyTrak enabled. So EnergyTrak allows remote monitoring. You can monitor your system, you can change your system, you can turn critical loads off with the system if you have a critical loads panel. So you can do a lot of things remotely through the EnergyTrak app. It's also outdoor rated. So if you want to install this outdoors, no special cabinet needed. And of course, it comes with SimpliPhi's 10-year warranty. So one of the best warranties on the market. So the core of this system for energy storage is, of course, the 4.9 kilowatt hour battery. And SimpliPhi has a long history of producing and refining and making better and better our battery systems. And we've got advanced lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry. And this delivers efficient and reliable power battery backup, but it also, because of the LFP chemistry, doesn't run as hot as other batteries and it lasts a lot longer. So at 80% depth of discharge, you can expect 10,000 cycles out of this LFP battery. So we have some of the best chemistry on the market. 10,000 cycles. If you cycled once daily, that's 27 years, right? And will allow you to cycle at 100% depth of discharge, right? And still offer you that full 10-year warranty on your battery system. It's scalable. So you can have as small as just one 5 kilowatt hour battery, 4.98. And you can scale up to 72 of these batteries to have a whopping 358 kilowatt hours of battery storage, right? That's a huge amount of battery storage. It's limited to 72 batteries, and we'll get into that, but that has to do with the communications, making sure there's a large enough signal on the Cat5 cables. It's got closed loop communication. Batteries communicate with each other. Batteries communicate with the inverter. Safety tested battery. We have state-of-the-art BMS inside, proprietary software on that as well. And it's got basically the industry standards there with LFP, SimpliPhi's LFP chemistry. Outdoor rated, again, you don't need to put this battery inside an enclosure. And additionally, it's not shown here, it is wall mountable. It's not shown here with a conduit box, but we have conduit boxes that fit nicely right on top. They mount directly into the battery casing to make it easy to run conduit. And I'll talk about how running those wires is made easy here. Again, our goal with SimpliPhi is to listen to installers and produce a system that's very easy to install. And so one of the things that we've done here is, you can maybe see by looking at the battery, we've offset those terminals a little bit to allow straight line wiring for paralleling batteries. And of course, a third important part of this energy storage system is the EnergyTrak control system. And the EnergyTrak control system can be used on a tablet or a phone. And soon we'll have it available on desktop as well. It allows fleet management. It allows remote monitoring, can tell you how much grid is being used, how much battery is being used, what the state of charge of the battery is. It can tell you about whether the inverter's kicked or the generator's kicked on. It can tell you how the solar array is doing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a key feature of most systems anymore are going to need some type of remote monitoring. And our system not only has the display, but also it has this EnergyTrak app, which will allow you fast commissioning. So if you're an installer trying to get your system set up, you've got a 5-step easy commissioning system, right? And if you're using our batteries, the settings can be automatically auto-populated in there. There's fleet management here for installers as well. So if your company installs a large number of these systems, you can monitor all of these systems remotely and let your customers know if anything needs changed or if any updates need to come in. We can do over-the-air updates with this, so no traveling out to a customer's site. It's not needed. You can do it remotely. Offers communication to your phone through Bluetooth, through Wi-Fi, through Ethernet cable. It's very flexible in terms of connectivity, and we'll talk more about that. But let's get into the specs of the 4.9 kilowatt hour battery. It's really 4.98 kilowatt hour battery. It's 5 kilowatt hours. Nominal voltage here, that's the voltage of the battery when it's at a 50% state of charge, is 51.2 volts DC. That depends slightly on temperature. So if you're in a hotter environment, that nominal voltage would be a little bit higher, but that's at 25 Celsius. The operating range of the battery is 48 to 56 volts DC. So the 56 volts would be the charging voltage of the battery. The battery itself's resting voltage at about 100% state of charge will be around 53.5 volts. Rated capacity, 4.98 kilowatt hours. Max continuous discharge, this battery can discharge at almost 50 amps, 48.5 amps continuous. You can draw this out of your battery continuously, but the battery can surge. So suppose you need a little bit extra power out of the battery just for a short amount of time. It can surge up to 100 amps. So you can get about 5 kilowatts out of a battery, a little over 5 kilowatts out of a single battery for up to 10 minutes. Depth of discharge, again, we allow 100% and still give you that full 10-year warranty. It's of course got our improved proprietary BMS with closed loop communications, and we can do remote firmware updates on the battery system as well. Up to 72 batteries, I mentioned this earlier, that's 358 kilowatt hours of total battery storage, right? That's a very large amount of battery storage. These are all wall mountable as well, and they're easy to mount. We'll talk about that a bit later, but they've got a wall mounting plate that you can screw into the wall and then just hang the battery on that plate. It's outdoor rated, indoor rated as well, but we offer other battery solutions for indoor rating that can save you a little bit of money if you're doing an indoor install. Most people are wanting outdoor installs now, and we can offer that with this particular battery. There's a conduit box that sits on the top of this battery, screws into tapped holes that are already there for you. Very easy to mount conduit box that we sell separately. Charging temperatures, the battery can charge like all LFP batteries, all lithium batteries, right? We're really restricted in the charging temperatures to be above freezing. So you don't want to be charging this when it's below freezing. Now that's the battery temperature, right? The ambient temperature can be below freezing, but the BMS monitors the battery temperature and it won't let this charge when it's below freezing. It can discharge all the way down to -4 degrees Fahrenheit, so pretty low temperature for discharging. And discharging the battery also heats it up, right? So it could go right into a charging cycle after the battery has been discharged a bit. Fault trip, when we get below -4 Fahrenheit, the battery will no longer charge and the BMS will turn it off. If the battery temperature goes above 158 Fahrenheit, it'll turn the battery off as well. So some safety features built into the advanced BMS that's inside this battery. We also have another battery which also has a closed loop communications in its advanced BMS. We write the firmware for this this BMS, and if you're doing an indoor installation, this will come at a little bit lower of a price point because it's not outdoor rated and we didn't have to do the additional weatherproofing here. And so this is our SimpliPhi battery. You can do up to 72 of these batteries. I'm sorry, that number's off there, 358 kilowatt hours. It's a bit smaller. I think it's about 275 if you do 72 of these batteries. Both batteries are UL 1973 certified. We do testing on all of our batteries. We have one of the best safety records in the industry. There's a 100 amp breaker on the top of this battery. Flexible sizing, again, you can start down as small as a 3.8 kilowatt hour battery system, right? That means if you are drawing 2 kilowatts, you could do that for nearly 2 hours straight, right? Run a large microwave for 2 hours straight with a single battery. But if you want a bigger system, you can do up to 72 of these to get about 275 kilowatt hours. Wall brackets are sold separately, but we have wall brackets for this to make it a wall mountable system. We also have battery cabinets that we sell for this that are UL certified. If you need that 9540 certification, we have that with this battery with our Boss cabinets. Great for indoor installations. All right, so the wall bracket, what's the wall bracket look like for this? I'm going to zip through this, the installation process here. I think most people will be pretty comfortable with how to do the physical mounting of these batteries. I want to get into the electrical specifications of the inverter, but you hang this wall bracket on the wall. So you could, if you're going into studs, you would mount this wall bracket directly into studs at 17.5 inches there to hit those 16-inch spaced on center studs. You can also hang this directly on rails, but you mount this wall bracket and then this tab sticks out. And that tab, when you lift the battery up, the battery can slip right over that tab, and then you secure it with bolts through the very bottom. Terminal connections. So there's communications on the top of the battery, and I'll talk about those. But the terminal connections are 3/8 inch brass studs. Be careful not to over torque these, right? They are brass. You can torque them off if you're using a driver to really hunker down on the lugs. So you don't want to do that. But 3/8 inch studs there, you want to use 4/0 cable and going from battery to battery, and I'll talk about that, but that's because when a large amount of current is flowing from battery to battery, when they're daisy chained, you can have voltage imbalances in the battery. You can use 2/0 cable to go from the battery bank to the inverter. We've got RJ45 communications ports, right? That means Cat5 cable can go into these batteries. The batteries are going to be connected to each other as well as to a monitoring device such as the inverter. Integrated 100 amp DC breaker is built into this. You don't need to install a separate breaker between the battery and your inverter system. We build that into all of our batteries here at SimpliPhi. Again, trying to make the installation as easy as possible for installers. 6 kilowatt inverter specs. Let's get into this inverter. It's a hybrid inverter. So hanging this inverter is similar to hanging the battery. Again, you're going to mount this wall panel, and then the inverter secures to the panel. Again, a nice, simple, easy install. Dimensions are given for you here. The inverter weighs about 86 pounds. It's fairly heavy. It is a transformerless inverter. We get that question sometimes. We've got a built-in rapid shutdown button here, and we've got the disconnect on the inverter as well, which will turn the system off, and we'll get into those. Again, showing you the wall mounting bracket here. You could secure this into studs with lag screws, if you use expansion bolts, if you're going into concrete, etc. And then once you've secured the mounting bracket, you mount the inverter directly to that on these built-in threaded studs that are there. The input range on the inverter is 42 volt DC up to 64 volt DC. Notice that it doesn't necessarily exactly match our battery chemistry, but this inverter can be used with other batteries. We don't necessarily recommend that. It's optimized for use with SimpliPhi's batteries, but you can use other batteries with our inverter. The terminal connections are shown here. You have a terminal connection which will accommodate a lug of a little over 1 inch. So you will want to be careful on what lugs you use for your for terminating your battery cables. You get, I think it's 1 1/16 of an inch there. You can take 4/0 cable, you can take 2/0 cable. Nominal battery voltage, again, this is really more for the battery, but that's 51.2 volt DC for LFP batteries. Maximum charging current, so you can output. This has actually been upgraded by our engineers. We've modified the system a little bit, and this will actually do 120 amps of DC charging. Maximum discharging at 150 amps, a little over 50 watts there, gives you a little over 50 volts there, gives you a little over 6,000 watts of continuous power. Again, it can surge. Right, so the maximum input power on the PV string, like I said, this has built-in MPPTs, right? Maximum power point tracking charge controllers. We've got 2 of them built into the unit. Can do up to 7,500 watts of solar coming in. Max DC input voltage, this is a very high number for typical MPPTs, and that allows you to use longer strings of higher voltage panels. All right, so higher voltage panels are a little less costly, saves your customer some money there. You can go up to 600 volts DC. Other systems typically have 400, 450, some have 500 volts DC. We go all the way up to 600 volts. Now that's an open circuit voltage, right? Maximum power point tracking ranges from 120 volts DC on the strings up to 550. PV startup voltage, that open circuit voltage needs to hit 160 for the MPPTs to turn on. Again, there are 2 MPPTs installed in every inverter. Each MPPT allows 2 strings of solar. So it gives you 4 strings of solar total coming in. 15 amps of continuous power coming in, right? That's 15 amps of continuous power per MPPT. 21 amps is a max open circuit current on any MPPT. So both have 2 connections. So as I mentioned, there are 4 strings total, and it's showing you here on the screen what those solar connections look like. Again, outdoor rated units, so the pass-throughs here for your solar wiring are there. Again, having that high voltage allows you to use a fewer number of strings, which also saves you on the wiring for your PV array. AC connections. So we've got AC connections, we've got built-in connections for generator input, we've got built-in connections for generator start, but those AC connections are shown here. This is a 240 volt split phase inverter, right? Which just means you have 2 legs, leg 1 and leg 2 of 120 volts each coming in, making 240 volts between those 2 legs. We're all familiar with that. Here in the Americas, we've got the neutral and then the ground connection here at the inverter. Surge power. This inverter can surge for 5 seconds. I think I might have said 3 earlier, 5 seconds at 9,000 watts. So if you need to turn on some heavy electrical motor when that start winding kicks in and draws a large, has a big, large draw, right? Well pump, something like that, very large well pump at 9,000 watts. But we can do that. We can surge 9,000 watts for 5 seconds. You can actually get an instantaneous power so that those spikes that can sometimes occur when you're turning on heavy machinery, we can instantaneously surge 100 milliseconds. There is a 1/10 of a second at 12,000 watts. So 12 kilowatts for a fraction of a second there. Output, again, it's 120 volts relative to the neutral wire, 240 volt split phase from 240 between the 2 legs. Now, I might get the connection here. I might get the question here, can this be connected as 240 or 220, 50 hertz? So it is field switchable, 50 or 60 hertz, I'll get into that. The hardware is there for this to be used as 220 volts neutral to leg, but we don't have the software finished on that. So a software update is going to allow us to have this be used in Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, etc. So any place that doesn't use the kind of American standard of 120, 240 split phase will be able to support here with a firmware update as the engineers wrap up the software. Transfer time, less than 8 milliseconds. Again, I said you won't even notice the lights flicker. If you have very crucial medical equipment, you might want to check with the manufacturer to make sure that 8 milliseconds is not enough to cause any interruptions. But for most devices, that's a very seamless transition. You won't even notice it. Can parallel up to 9 of these units. So if 6 kilowatts of power is not enough for your home, maybe you have a home that's going to use a little bit more than the average at 12 kilowatts, throw 2 of these on there. You'll be able to surge up to 18,000 watts and a split second surge of up to 24,000 with just 2 of these units. You can go up to 9 of them in parallel, right? Each one of them producing 6 kilowatts of power for home backup. Grid input, 40 volts AC per unit, that's continuous, right? So that 40 volts AC is per unit there. Generator input, each inverter can handle up to 40 amps of generator input. That's AC, of course, and that 40 amps that's coming in there is per unit as well. Max efficiency of the inverter is 96.5%. I see there are questions coming in. I'll try to get to all those questions at the end. Normally we have 2 of us on here, and this today we're short one person who's given a presentation up in Wisconsin. So I'll try to get to all those questions at the end. Sorry, I can't do them all right now. The inverter, again, think of the inverter as the hub of an energy storage system. But unlike some inverters that are just inverting, right, this is a hybrid inverter. And that hybrid inverter has built-in charge controllers and is there to communicate with the battery and allow battery backup. So the built-in charge controllers mean that you can have solar coming directly into this inverter, no need for extra MPPTs, right? An extra cost, extra connection, extra programming, no need for that with this inverter. It's built in. We've got 2 of them built in, up to 7,500 watts coming in. You can do critical loads out of this panel. You can use this inverter to back up your home loads. Again, the inverter connects to the grid, so you can feed to or from the grid. It's bi-directional port to the grid. You can use a generator input here. You can AC couple the solar as well. And then, of course, the inverter charges and discharges the battery backup system. So there are different modes of operation. You can do grid tied with backup, right? And so the idea here is that you've got PV, right? You can feed that in, but you can also feed that back to the grid, get those rebates on your electricity bill. But then that battery backup is there in case you have a storm or some interruption of service. And out here in California, when they have the wildfires going, we have interrupted service, the grid will get turned off in specific regions to prevent damage to the grid. There's off-grid mode as well. So there are people that want to use this just for an off-grid. They don't want to be connected. And so this can provide power for off-grid environments as well. It also has generator start built into it. So in some off-grid applications, I even will recommend a generator because the system might not be used that often if it's just for a cabin, etc. If you're doing off-grid living, this will work for you as well. Right, with battery backup, and you're really taking the most advantage of your solar when you're using it daily. And so this can be used for off-grid. Grid tied as well. You don't want batteries. You just want to use this as a string inverter and connect your batteries connect your solar panels directly to the inverter and feed back to the grid. We can do that grid tied inverter as well. Again, it's versatile. One simple inverter can meet all these tasks. You're dealing with one product, one SKU, one manual. Try to make it as easy as possible for our customers. We've built in as much as we can. The communications are built into this. This is CAN bus, right? Inverter to inverter CAN bus. If you have multiple inverters in parallel, one will be your primary inverter and the other inverters would be the secondaries. We're not using the word primary or master and slave anymore, but so similar to that, right? You have a primary inverter and then that will do the controls for the secondary inverters. That's CAN bus. We're storing on the cloud. We'll be using the Google Cloud. There's a gateway that can be bought, and this is one thing that's not included with the inverter. The reason we don't include the communications with this inverter is we can offer you the inverter and your customers the inverter at a lower price point if we don't put the gateway in. So by removing the gateway, you only need one communications hub for many inverters. So if you were to buy 4 inverters for a backup for a maybe an office building, right? You only need to purchase one gateway. We don't make you buy that. So that's not built in, but we do have automatic generator start included. So automatic generator start wires are there included in the system. Integrated rapid shutdown. So we've got AP Smart compatible rapid shutdown button already built in here. It's there on the side. One less thing for you to wire. That's built in. And then we're showing you the communications pin assignment there if you need it. Of course, all this stuff is available in the manual, which can be accessed through our website. The inverter, again, has a mobile interface, but it also has that LCD display. You can see the legs of the AC input. You can see the AC output. You can see the battery voltage on this. You can cycle through. If there are any faults, you can see them. You can see the amperage and the wattage coming out of the inverter. You can check the battery percentages, how much load is being applied to the batteries, etc. Right, so there's a lot that's on that display. It also tells you information about the communication of the inverter. So the EnergyTrak gateway is what allows all inverters. So if you have a string of, say, 5 of these inverters paralleled up, you need one gateway to connect these to the internet. And so the gateway allows communication from battery to gateway, inverter to gateway, and all of that, of course, to the cloud. So we're using Google Cloud here. The gateway will allow communication with our EnergyTrak app. And so once you have your system connected to the internet through the gateway, preferably through a direct Ethernet cable, right? So you can use Wi-Fi, although it's, when customers change the Wi-Fi, that can cause problems, right? And as soon as you have it connected to the internet, will allow you to hook up to a phone to do remote monitoring, or a tablet to do remote monitoring. And then the benefit of this as well, you can hook up your phone directly to Bluetooth to do the programming that way if you're at a site that doesn't have an internet connection. UL certifications and standards. SimpliPhi tests all of our batteries. UL 1973, right? We have grid regulation at 1741. All of these have been completed. We're still wrapping up a couple. I think the 9540A and the 9540 should be complete. They're almost complete. I think we did just wrap up FCC communications on the gateway as well. The EnergyTrak control system. We'll get into this briefly. The EnergyTrak control system is a pretty versatile control system with a couple of different operating modes. One of the nice things about the EnergyTrak control system is that it allows fleet management. And what fleet management means is it allows an installation company to manage all their prior installs through fleet management. So if you have customers that say, hey, I want you to take care of everything. I want you to install my system. I want to be able to see it, but I'd like you to install it, monitor it remotely. That's what you're allowed to do. So you set up your pro user account as an installation company. You set up your pro user account with us, right? And then you can manage all of your previous installs there. The other nice thing about the EnergyTrak control system is you can give us the opportunity to see the system as well. And so on the back end, if you're having some issue with customer support, you can allow us access and we can see the system as well. So the pro users, once you have your pro user account, you can set up the resonance, and it's easy as typing a few things into your phone. Again, 5-step commissioning process to get the whole battery backup system there quickly. So it shows you all of your accounts. It'll show you statuses on the accounts. If you do have some kind of warning, or you do have a system that's offline, maybe Dr. Sully changed his Wi-Fi password there in Maryland, right? And his system goes offline, you'll see that. You can give him a call and say, hey, the inverter's offline. Can you update the password for us and get online? That's also the reason why I'd like to see you go with Ethernet connection directly to the home's modem, right? But if you can't do that and you have to go with Wi-Fi, just try to make sure that you keep those Wi-Fi passwords up to date so the system will stay online for you. It will show you what type of use the system is configured for, and it allows you to change that remotely. It also will show you the grid profile and information about the grid, how the grid's doing, tells you what your system is set up for in terms of disconnects, etc. So this is the EnergyTrak gateway. You only need a single device for a whole system. So if you've got 9 inverters, this single gateway will allow all of them to communicate with the cloud. It's important to us, unlike some of the cheaper models that are out there, right? It's important to us that our customers' data is safe and secure, and so we're storing that in the US on the cloud. Kate, I see you've raised your hand, but I can't unmute you. So if you go ahead and throw your question in questions and answers, I'll try to get to that at the end. And then, of course, EnergyTrak enabled. So this gateway is what allows us to use the EnergyTrak and run all your run all of the information, the data to the cloud for you to have access to remotely. Okay, so both the SimpliPhi inverter as well as the battery are wired with RJ45 connections through a Cat6 cable right into the gateway. And a gateway is what has the Bluetooth, and it has the Wi-Fi, and it has Ethernet, and that's what's going to connect to the owner's modem, right? Or their router, if they're most likely their router, right? Their modem connects to the router, and so you can connect directly to that. You'll want to power, of course, that you want to power the communications through critical loads, or just make sure it stays on so that the gateway is able to continuously load the data. Of course, if the communications to the house goes out, there is some storage in the SimpliPhi inverter, and it will save some of that data to be uploaded later. This will connect to the cloud, right? And you'll have access to that through the internet through a mobile app. So this is what a system would look like installed. So here's a system where we've got 3 of the batteries mounted on the wall. This is an interior system, but so you don't have conduit boxes up here. It's not completed yet, but that's what it would look like installed. That's going to give you 6 kilowatts of power and 15 kilowatt hours of battery storage. So again, offering fleet management there, business level account, and as well as consumer accounts. And yes, it's possible to set up. We know that some consumers will want to have pro access to that, but we'd really like to try to minimize that so that the installers can block the end users out from changing settings which are going to damage the system, right? But of course, those pro-level access can be given to the owner of the system. The wiring, what does the wiring look like? So here is an indoor system, so we're not going to have conduit boxes on top of the batteries. We do have conduit boxes which cover those cables if you're going outside. Here's an indoor system that was mounted up in Wisconsin, showing the batteries being mounted. Those batteries going up into a combiner, right? And then going to the inverter. You can daisy chain up to 4 of these batteries. Typically, we don't like to see daisy chained batteries, and the reason is as high levels of current are flowing. So if we look at a large amount of current coming out of an individual battery, right, and then that current gets amplified by the second battery, right, we end up having a large amount of current from this bank flow through these wires. And when you have a large current flowing through any wire which acts as the resistor, you can have some voltage imbalances between the batteries. So if you are daisy chaining like this and not using a combiner, we recommend using 4-aught. We don't recommend, we require using 4-aught cable to do this, and that will keep any imbalances in the battery system as small as possible. You can do that up to 4 batteries. If you're going to do 6 batteries, we recommend 2 sets of 3 with a combiner. And then these batteries go into the inverter. Again, if you're doing larger number of batteries, like maybe you have 8 batteries and 2 inverters, use a DC combiner box to combine those cabling. It's also important that the total length of the leads, negative plus positive, coming to the combiner from both sets of banks are the same length, right? If you have a longer set of cabling going to one battery bank than the other, then the battery bank with the larger set of cabling will see less use, and it'll be heavier demand on the batteries with the shorter set of cabling. The communications gets wired, so the first battery in the bank will be wired to the inverter. The last battery in the bank will go to the gateway, and then both the gateway and that first battery are connected to the inverter. Pretty simple wiring there on the batteries communication system. So how does the SimpliPhi ESS compare, right? We're coming in at a pretty low price point with this inverter. A lot of our distributors are offering this below $3,500, and it's you can get 2 of the SimpliPhi inverters for the price of about a single SolarC 9 kilowatt continuous inverter, right? So we've got a low price point here for this. We also, again, have a lot of versatility with this. It can be installed, this same inverter can be installed anywhere from a small 6 kilowatt system all the way up to 54 kilowatts of continuous output power, right? That's maximum continuous output power. And when you compare this to some of our competitors, we definitely have the largest functional system that's there. Now, I know these comparisons aren't all apples to apples. Our batteries are rated at 10,000 cycles, and that has to do with the fact that we're using LFP battery chemistry. We've got the premium cells in our batteries, the most advanced BMS system. Our engineers are constantly trying to refine our batteries to make them last longer and longer. So we've got the best warranty on the market, 10 years flat out. You can discharge our batteries 100% and still have that 10-year warranty. Battery capacity range here from 5 kilowatt hours up to 360. There are some drawbacks to other systems. I know you're aware of those, and of course there are benefits to everybody's system. But one of those for us is this versatility here, in which we're trying to highlight that. So what are the key takeaways of this ESS system? One, we minimize the number of external components that you'll need to source and mount, right? And when I talk up to people about doing systems, right, the more things you need to buy, the more time you need to spend in buying them, spend in typing them up in your billing, the more time you need to spend, if more likelihood you're going to have a problem getting it, right? So we built in, by building in the rapid shutdown, you don't have to do a separate wiring for that. By building in the automatic generator start, right? You don't have to wire in a separate generator start. By building in the MPPTs, you don't have to go out and deal with a separate purchase. You don't have to purchase MPTs. We got 2 of them built into the system. Again, the system is versatile, meaning it can be used in a lot of different environments. You used off-grid, on-grid, grid-tied, etc. It's scalable, starting as small as 6 kilowatts, going all the way up to 54 kilowatts continuous power. Simple to install, right? You can install it with new or existing solar. You can install it with AC or DC coupled solar. You can use it with or without a battery, right? Even though we sell batteries, the primary function of SimpliPhi is selling our batteries, right? You can use this with or without battery. You can just use a grid-tied system if you want. It can be installed indoors or outdoors, right? The fact that you don't need to purchase a separate cabinet or do anything special with rain enclosure. And then again, the gateway allows all this remote communication, programming, monitoring, etc. So I want to point out a couple of things. If you are interested in learning more about these products, you can always go to our support section. You can click on our products. If you want to, if you want to know more about this, you can click on the product and you can download information, the cut sheets, etc. there. I also want to point out, if you click on support, you can get the specification sheets. You can read through the installation manual here, etc. We've got how-to videos online. We also have trainings. So we have a lot of trainings, including this one. You found us here, so you know about some of our trainings, but we have a lot of different types of training, and I'll talk briefly about them. We also, if you're an installer, we have an IQ installer qualification program. If you're already installing our batteries and know the basics of battery sizing and systems, it's pretty easy to get installed as an IQ installer. And I'll tell you about some of the benefits of that. Through the Briggs Power Academy, SimpliPhi is now a part of the Briggs and Stratton family, right? So we are part of Briggs and Stratton. As SimpliPhi offers through their Power Academy, we offer kind of self-paced learning modules. So if there's some things you want to review, like maybe you want to learn about AC coupling a solar system with our battery ESS backup, right? You can go to bluevolt.com/learnbriggs, a really easy way to get to it. So if you send the word learn to 33988, just text learn to 33988, you'll get a text message with a link to this website, and you can do the self-paced. There's a course on the ESS there, which highlights a lot of the things I went through today. You can also do courses on their generators, etc. So the SimpliPhi Elite IQ installer program that we have, we've got installers all over the world, right? One of the nice things about becoming an IQ certified installer is when we have our sales applications get questions coming in and people ask who can install it, we'll get you on our map, right? So we'll put you on our map. But not only that, if you're an Elite IQ installer, on every battery that you install for us, we get you $25 cash back, and that comes as a check to you. You install 100 of our batteries over the year, you'll get a $2,500 check at the end of the year, right? Or if you submit for that earlier, we can get it to you as you do them. We also have a $250 installer photo contest, and so we entered you in that. We love to see pictures of people installing our systems, people happy with our systems. And so submit to that. We love seeing those pictures. I want to point out another thing. SimpliPhi Power is participating together with our distributors in Energize America campaign. And the goal of this campaign is to have people be prepared for emergency backup needs, right? I think with the hurricane that's come through Florida, a lot of people realize how important having backup power is. And so we're offering significant discounts, reduced pricing on some of our select products through the end of the month. So if you're somebody who installs a lot of our Phi batteries, now is a good time to stock up on that. SimpliPhi is giving a big discount on these batteries, but if you're an IQ installer, you can also get an additional $25 back on the batteries that you install. So it's a good time to stock up on batteries, get your customers prepared. We have the little Jenny sets and the larger Jenny sets that offer remote backup power. These are also just good for things like camping, that kind of thing. RVs sometimes will buy these systems. So if you would like to get connected with an application engineer, you need help sizing a system, you've got questions about designing an ESS system, you can reach one of our application engineers by calling 805-640-6700 and hitting option number 2. You can also just email sales@simpliphipower.com and we'll get an application engineer hooked up with you. And if you have questions that you want to direct to me or my colleague Daniel, soon Charles, just send an email to training@simpliphipower.com. So I'm going to jump into the questions, the Q&A. Thank you for taking the time to list them, and thank you for giving me the time to present this to you. So the first question here comes from Anton. It says, does the inverter have max DC coupled kilowatt, AMD max AC kilowatt? The max on the DC coupled solar is 7,500 kilowatts. We go beyond that, and you'll see inverter clipping happening. On the AC side, I think we're limited. I think we're limited on the AC side to 40 amps continuous. And so 40 amps times 240 volts will be about 6 kilowatts on the AC side. But we don't have specific recommendations. We'll get back to you about doing both AC and DC coupled. That it is possible as well. How many amps in order to start ACs? I think what you mean there, I see AC and I think of alternating current, but a typical AC system is probably on the order of 30 to 40 amps. It really depends on how big the system is. Some can even be bigger than that, right? And so you have to look and see what the home AC system is. If you're going to go bigger than that, you'd have to have bigger than 40 amps. You would need more than one inverter, right? So if you have a couple inverters paralleled, you could surge up to 18 kilowatts for 5 seconds, which should get a larger AC system started. If someone is over a 10 kilowatt system, will the inverter throttle down the system and shut off panels in a grid down situation if AC is coupled? That's a good question. I think if somebody's using a larger system and they're trying so they have a larger power need, your question is, will trying to draw that out turn the inverter off? And I think I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure. If we try to couple a large, you'll probably get a fault, right? And so what we do recommend is doing a critical loads panel and just not having the AC coupled in the critical loads panel. So it's a good question. All batteries are 90 UL9540A. Yes, every SimpliPhi battery that we do UL9540A testing. Do you have pre-engineering available for the bracket? I'm not sure what you mean by pre-engineering, Anton. If you want to let me know in advance, I'd be happy to answer. I think pre-engineering, you're talking about custom fab for the wall bracket, or if you just want the specs of the bracket that comes with the inverter and comes with the battery, I can get that to you as well. DC direct charging for EV charger. No, we don't have DC direct for an EV charger, although people are using these to couple EV chargers through the 40 amp AC output. Typically, people are putting on 30 amp chargers. I was speaking with the homeowner just 2 days ago who was installing charging for his Tesla, and he thinks of it in terms of the miles per hour that he can charge up, right? So if you're doing just a single 15 amp, 120 volt connection, you get about 3 miles per hour that you're charging up. So it's pretty slow. But if you use 240 volt, like a electric dryer plug, etc., he can get his car charged up in about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. The typical, to give you an idea, a typical car has a battery pack of, like a medium range Tesla has a battery pack of 60 kilowatt hours, right? So you can calculate how long it would take to charge that up based on 40 amps or 6,000 watts, right? So that would be 10 hours of charging to go 100% with a 6 kilowatt continuous. Can it be configured to 3-phase? Good question, Caesar. Not yet. So we are working on that. So the engineers are trying to release this as soon as possible for typical home configurations, but eventually we hope to be offering this configured with 3-phase, right? 480. Can it be configured to 0 export? Yeah, sure. Yeah, easily configured to 0 export to the grid. Do you have actual pictures with wiring inside the inverter? I don't have them here. If you email me, I can send you pictures of the wiring. And we actually offer webinars where we do a live demo out of Oxnard. So our office in Oxnard is powered by 2 of these inverters and solar. And so we have our office building there. I can take the covers off and show you the connections inside, etc. So keep an eye out for those trainings as well. Can we run EV level 3 chargers? And yes, the answer is you can do, I think a level 3 charger is 30 amps. And so the answer is actually, I'm not sure. I think level 2 is 30 amps. So I'm not sure, Barry. I'm happy to look into that. And so you also asked, can it do 480 volts 3-phase? And somebody else asked that earlier. And the answer is not yet, although we hope to be able to do that with a firmware update in the near future. Can you provide a PDF of the presentation? Absolutely. I'll send a PDF of the presentation to everybody that's registered. Will we have access to this presentation? Yes, so you'll get both a PDF of the presentation as well as a recording of it. What about the system availability for the Middle East? So this is a great question. Who's a point of contact for the international market? Email our sales team directly, and we'll have somebody responsible for international sales. We're getting a lot of inquiries about the European market. I spoke with a number of people that were from West Africa as well that are interested in this system. So yes, we're getting a lot of interest there. We do need a firmware update to, like I said, to hit the, I'm not sure what you use in the Middle East, but I think you use single leg 220 50 hertz. It's field switchable to 50 hertz, but we need a firmware update before we get the 220 feature fully out. Are there any plans for intelligent load shedding, or will the dealer agree with the homeowner on what critical circuits? So we are in communication with some intelligent load panel companies, and we're hoping to be offering a product where we integrate with an intelligent load shedding company soon. So Internet of Things kind of remotely turn on breakers on and off. But for right now, I think the installer needs to communicate with the homeowner on what are critical loads, right? You'll want to be able to keep your lights on. Normally a low draw anyway, but you want to be able to keep your lights on, your internet connectivity, things like that. Probably the AC, the washer and dryer don't need to be on critical loads, etc. Does it have an auxiliary 12-volt DC? It does not, and our battery banks are 48 volts, so you have the option of having 48 volts available to you there, but no, it doesn't have a 12-volt DC. Structural engineering is needed in some jurisdictions when mounting batteries above 4 feet from the ground. This is why pre-made engineering okay, so thank you, Anton, for clarifying your quick question. This is why pre-made engineering for the mounting bracket would be nice. Enphase and Tesla have this for their products mounting to various wall types. First, Anton, I'll check to see if our engineering team has that. It's understandable, right? These battery systems are heavy, and it makes your job a lot easier if we have the load calculations and requirements done for you. We might. I'll check with the engineering team and I'll get back to you. So Anton, can you please send me an email at training@simpliphipower.com? And so again, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen about this system. You'll all get a copy of this presentation, a video copy of this presentation, as well as PDF of today's slides. So thank you so much. Please have a good day. Bye from Oxnard, California.